Lady Queenie had a peep over the right shoulder, and she's going to blow them away. But Northerly, Danny Miller pumping away, and Northerly wins the railway.
Welcome to Racing Rewind. Our panel will review and digest the Prime WA Saturday Thoroughbred meeting from 24 hours earlier. If you have an opinion, send a text to 0427 789 571.
Galaxy Star draws away from them. Pike Magician.
It's time for Racing Rewind at 12 minutes past 8 o'clock. A very good morning, Michael and Lochie.
Oh, we're on. There we go. Good morning to our intern, Michael, and listeners. Great to be in.
Good morning, boys. A nice day out there at Belmont yesterday. The rain stayed away, and Michael Grantham, it was good to hear that interview driving on the way here. His stable's doing a really good job at the moment, and Love and War looks a pretty nice filly as well. She
certainly does. She's burst onto the scene really nicely, sourced by Bob's grandson in Liam Peters from the South Island of New Zealand.
And would get then for Liam?
Absolutely. So great advertisement for not only Bob Peters and Michael Grantham, but for Liam's fledgling business as well. And as Michael touched upon, I really like this filly. She, as always, this campaign looked likely to end up in a Belmont Guineas, and that's exactly what she did yesterday, and it was a really stylish victory.
Yeah, 100%. No more William Pike after yesterday for, I think it's 10 days. He starts his suspension out of the steward's room. The only other real query, well, of course, Pikey got suspended a week ago. He just starts his time last night. But Braden Garth was reprimanded for in race number 1. But outside of that, there wasn't a huge... Berberay in the last race was very interesting, wasn't it?
Absolutely. A late withdrawal after having found to have bled from one nostril upon arrival at the barriers. So I think that the way it's written probably isn't a great way it's written, because...
Couldn't have been from the prelim.
You don't actually know if the horses bled as such, but there was the presence of blood in the horse's near side nostril.
Could have hit its head or done anything.
Exactly. So, but regardless of that, have to take the cautious route, and Berberay will be sent back to the trials and then back to the races. He was good. He was good yesterday, wasn't he?
Oh, he was very good.
How's that? And you're a big advocate for when the Eastern Staters come over here and head back over Eastern Winlock?
Absolutely. Yasfura, first edition of the Quokka, travels back to Melbourne with success and then across to the other side of the planet and wins the King's Stand. I just hate the narrative that Perth is too far away for some East Coast trainers. They believe our tracks are too firm. Sometimes the track at Flemington is much firmer than they are at Ascot. It's ridiculous that there's this perception, and time again we see the form of our key feature races, especially over these sprinting ranks in Perth, whether it be a Winterbottom or a Quokka now. It just stacks up time and time again, and it was great to see Moonamek salute again yesterday.
4-hour flight from Melbourne. You travel more than that in a truck to go to some meetings.
Yeah,
of course you do. Yeah. No, they're just whinges over there. Don't worry about that.
Not like us, Mart.
That is.
Get on with it.
That's it. Get on with this racing rewind. Up on the goldfields today.
School of Hard Knocks us.
Yeah, the Mines Rovers Footy Club today. Tab Touch West Speed Platinum Handicap over the mile was race number 1.
Middle for Allegro Sonata. Here's Wonder Weapon. She found the back of Strawberry Miss for Grey. She's coming to the outside, putting in a claim as well for Fiore at the 250. Buckland is the leader. Dad's big-headed, can't get going at all. Wonder Weapon can, however. Wonder Weapon dashes up now, goes to the lead. Down the outside, Lover Session starting to erupt, coming out of the ground, Lover Session. Wonder Weapon's in front. Lover Session won't get to Wonder Weapon. Wonder Weapon finally cracks it in this campaign to beat Lover Session. Buckland battled. And then who by far the roughie was Strawberry Miss together.
Well, good win, deserved win, and was able to hold off of Wonder Weapon, now to hold off Lover Session with Buckland boxing on for third.
Wonder Weapon, she really deserved that. You're completely right, Marty. And Lucy Fiore, I think that was a well-deserved result for her. She's been riding this mare all campaign, and I thought last start, she gave this horse an 11 out of 10. She lobbed one out, one back, and gave the horse a perfect ride. And in the end, you're beaten by a subsequent Belmont Guineas winner. So you perhaps a little hard done by there. But yesterday, I think Lucy just rode the horse like the best horse in the race. Took bad luck out of the equation. Just rode her nice and cold, 3 deep with cover throughout. And I think the race shapes just suited this mare really nicely. The field bunched at around the 500-metre mark, which just meant that 3 deep line was able to edge a little bit closer to the rest of the field at the top of the straight, and from there, Wonder Weapon won really stylishly. Lover Session, once again, loomed late, but she's becoming a little bit of a non-winner, albeit very consistent. But all honours to Wonder Weapon, clearly the best horse in this race, and that's how it transpired.
The form from last start, you're right, has really held up with Love and War, of course, winning the Belmont Guineas yesterday, Wonder Weapon second, but also Californication was back in sixth place and came out and was really heavily commissioned in betting yesterday and won well. So it's been a good form reference. Back in third yesterday was Buckland, who was backing up off 48 hours. We love those quick spins and was well beaten on the Thursday, but gave a huge sight in front yesterday. Was a good effort, and Strawberry Mist was a bit of a surprise. Went around triple figures and was racing well outside the handicap, but finished off well. But probably just speaks to the sort of the quality of the race. It wasn't an overly strong field. This was, of course, a Zero Metro win, West Speed Platinum race. And the unlucky runner was Allegra Sonato. No luck there, was held up in between horses, had nowhere to go, and ended up finishing last. But I think she can get a mulligan for that. She had genuine excuses.
I agree. Not a great form race moving forward, because Lover Session hasn't won in a long time, but continue to follow Wonder Weapon just on the basis that she has form behind some really nice horses in My Jimmy and Love and War prior to yesterday.
Race number 2 was the WA Racehorse Owners Association Plate over the 1,000 metres.
150. They approach the turn. Scenic George going along well in front, leads by a length and a half. The debutant September Born about to stalk it here on the outside and really test out Scenic George. 2 lengths to Koondle immediately under the Persuader, and then further back behind them Skull Bone and Pig. September Born takes Scenic George. 150 to go. Races clear September Born from Scenic George, and then came Skull Bone and Pig. But this newcomer September Born lives up to his reputation, wins it from Scenic George, who fought strongly to hold second. Tight go for third between Skullbone and Pig, and also
2-year-old race, September Born. Tell us about it. It's got a big rap and lived up to it yesterday.
Certainly does. The full brother to Group 1 winner in KC, and must be said he's a different type. Yep. She was a leaner, scopier type, and he looks like more of a sprinting-looking Flying God, similar to, I guess, a horse like West Star, albeit as a type West Star is a big rangy horse. But September Born on debut yesterday, and he settled much handier than many expected, myself included. He settled outside the leader, still wanted to do a few things wrong in terms of the way he cornered, but once he knuckled down to his task, that was a really stylish win. In the end, won by nearly 2 lengths, but I think the big takeaway out of the performance is that Neville Parnham usually each and every year unearths a horse throughout the winter months at Belmont Park, and it's his number 1 seed heading towards either the Guineas or perhaps now the fact that the Placid Arc is worth $500,000, the Placid Arc, and it looks like September Born is that horse. He has a very, very high opinion of him, and from what I understand, he'll go to the paddock now and then be set at either a WA Guineas of a mile, or potentially has the option to be set for a Placid Arc, and then who knows, perhaps even a Winterbottom like we saw with Oscar's Fortune and also Ripcord later last year.
And we've become accustomed to Stevie riding all Neville's Group 1 horses, haven't we, over the years? He must just ride a lot of track work and get his mitts on them early and work it out, and doesn't release them after that. But Brad actually has ridden this horse all the way from the first trial back in November. So the horse has clearly had 2 or 3 preparations whilst he's nearly a 3-year-old. His first trial was about 7 months ago. So he's been in the system a long time and has been well educated. That was on show yesterday. Looked really professional, and he won really well. Scenic George was well supported in betting, about 15 into $9.50 late. Found the front, gave a lot of cheek after a luckless run the start prior. He's ticking along well. Skullbone and Pig, I think's
one to follow.
Yeah, pretty nice horse. I liked his trial and just the way his action and the way he covered the ground in the trial. It sort of looked to me as though he might be a horse that would want a bit further, maybe into his 3-year-old year. Might be a miler. I'm not sure about the breed, the grunts, but
Flemington Guineas winner, isn't he?
Okay, so yeah, maybe he is more of a WA Guineas type, and that looked on show yesterday as well. The way he chimed in, and still a bit raw in his action, but he looks like a really nice 14 to a mile type in time. Cashflow was a surprise of the race, was 100 to 1, but finished off really well and actually ran home in the fastest closing sectionals, whilst the horse I tipped, Koondal, had every chance, 1 out, 1 back, and was probably only fair, beaten 4.5 lengths. In the end, luckless runner was God, She's Sassy, notable drifter in betting. She was $4 out to $7.50 in the closing minutes, and she was 3 deep, no cover the trip, and understandably tired. And also Southern Scandal was bitterly disappointing, shown a lot more in his trials, but just races quite greenly. He still doesn't look like the penny's dropped with him, or he knows what he's doing, but I think he can still measure up in the future, but perhaps it's all just come a bit too soon for him.
Exactly right. I agree in regards to your comments on Skullbone and Pig. He'll be one of my horses to follow out of the meeting. It just looks like he wants more ground.
Pretty much for the name, I thought. Just
loyal.
You'd put him into a 1400 tomorrow and it'd win.
Exactly.
Well, we spoke about this last week, didn't we? There's no more 1400s.
No,
there was only the one, which is just really strange.
And he's out of an Almaha mare, so it's mile everywhere.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it'd be a horse that you'd be thinking Guineas for sure.
The key disappointments out of the race, as Michael touched upon, the horses that were in single figures, Koondal, Arduette, Southern Scandal and God She's Sassy. I think they've all shown enough, whether it be race day in Koondal and Arduette's instance or trials like Southern Scandal and God She's Sassy, that they're nice horses, but it may have just come a little too soon for them, and next campaign back into a 3-year-old maiden next prep, I think they'll make their own.
Third event, the free entry to Belmont Park handicap over the 1,000 metres.
He's really having to stoke it up hard coming into the corner, not travelling at the moment. Magic Cash is still well back with If I Didn't Have a Dime hit the jackpot. Ginnivan's the horse to run down, and it's got a big lead at the 200. Ginnivan increased that lead now at 4 lengths on Bolter. Chop Suey, followed by Final Siren. Ginnivan clear, getting a little weary, but the post is going to come well and truly in time for Ginnivan, and Ginnivan won easily. Ginnivan all the way from Final Siren, and third home is Bolter.
Yeah, get the feeling there's a little plan that's come off here. Lock?
Yeah, there was. When Fields came out on Tuesday afternoon, Dad and I had a discussion, and between Dad and I, we have such great respect for Final Siren. I think we've ran second or third behind the horse on a few occasions, so we know how good he is, but when the barrier draws were the way they were and Final Siren was drawn out wide and we knew we were going to meet him 4 kilos better, we made the decision that we really wanted to see Final Siren earn his victory, and we really wanted to put the foot down, and I thought it was a beautifully executed ride from Braden. He broke 59, I believe, which the other 1,000-metre race on the day was nowhere near that, so he clearly allowed them to roll and he kept on going. I think he ran the fastest final 600-metre split of the race, which was a surprise. You don't often see that with a leader in a race, but that early plan to just allow him to roll in front, I guess that was the winning move, and Final Siren just seems very green when he doesn't find the rail, and that was the case there yesterday.
Yeah, it almost looks like he wants further off of that effort, Final Siren, which is was interesting. But yeah, back on Ginnivan, you're right, ran home in the fastest last 600 of the race, which for a leader is always really impressive, especially when it didn't look like he was going slowly. So you can sometimes see that when the horse gets a soft lead and all of a sudden kicks, but he appeared to be quite even throughout the run and was really strong late, so certainly a convincing win, did it at both ends. And yeah, Final Siren just stepped a bit slow and he just didn't show the same zip, and William Pike's probably not the sort of rider to keep punching forward and keep going until he found the breeze, so he elected to slot in 1 out, 1 back, and the horse had a lovely run, but just clearly much more effective when he's ridden on the speed, but perhaps stepping up to a 1,200 metre race now where he probably could find the front and dictate terms, get things a bit softer. That might be the go for him moving forward. Bolter was solid, settled second behind Ginnivan and battled on well for third, while Chop Suey was just coming out of maiden grade and I thought battled on quite well. Magic Cash and If I Didn't Have a Dime were probably the two disappointing runners. They were both well beaten, but Ginnivan did it at both ends, and he's now earned a couple $100,000 for a West Beat Platinum horse, a homebred universal rule of 3-year-old. He's done a terrific job.
Yeah, he has. So he'll just continue to be placed over these 1,000-metre races throughout winter. I think there's one in a couple of weeks' time or another option in 3 weeks' time. So that's the plan for him. Final Siren is just an interesting one moving forward. Now that we've seen on a couple of occasions when he hasn't been able to find the front, he just doesn't travel in the exact same manner. And Ginnivan did a similar thing early on in his career. clearly they've just been educated to find the rail, roll along, and their speed is their asset, and they get a new experience, and they're just a little bit lost because his final 100 was still good.
Yeah.
He was finding the line well. But
it was the best part of his race.
Exactly.
Was through the line.
But he just didn't travel into the race well at all. I think in time he'll be able to take a sit. But for now, it's just all too new to him. Interesting, on the 4th of June, so that was a couple of weeks ago, Julio tweeted that the Listed Bovine Stakes would be his target. I wonder if they revisit that, knowing that he's still a lowly rated horse from a handicapping perspective, and a bovine, you'd think they'd really roll along in a listed 1,000-metre race. So it would be interesting to see what the wash-up is out of Final Siren's performance yesterday, and whether they revisit those plans and perhaps try find something a little weaker for him.
And for a gelding as well, there's probably not a huge amount of upside in doing that because the black type's irrelevant. But yeah, I think 1,200 metres is an out of the realm possibility now for him.
Yep.
Now, Chris Caronut wants to know the backstory of Ginnivan. So you've just said it's a homebred, so you guys bred that yourselves?
Yes, so he's out of a mare called Taken High.
So who came up with the name?
I think Dad did.
Genius. I reckon it's one of the best named horses going around.
I think Dad did. And there's another one on the way. What would you like the next one to be called?
Taken High.
Yeah.
I'm not into it.
Because we tried, you tried Shuey, didn't you? Because when Luke Shuey used to get...
Something like that, and then Selwood was on there.
Oh, that's enough.
Yeah.
Let the genie out of the bottle now, haven't I? Race number 4 is the key clean handicap over the 2,200 metres.
But Tallangatta they still have to get to. 400 to run. Tallangatta drew clear. Magic Whistle recalled. Battles away. Bam Bam Boy also plugging down the outside. Satino and Kia Oraku too. Lucy's gone back to the inside with Strike now. She's saved valuable ground. Coming well. Tallangatta recalled. Satino. Strike now back near the rail. Recalled Tallangatta. Tallangatta recalled. Satino now. Satino grinding. Satino goes up. Tallangatta kicks again. They'll go to it. There won't be much in it whatsoever, but it's Satino. Satino has just bloused Tallangatta in a real test of attrition late. They were
Yeah, deserved win here for Satino. Needed that one, deserved it. Goes to the paddock now. Spoke to Michael Grantham, and terrific win.
Absolutely, he's had a great campaign, and it was nice to see him just tick that 2,200 metre box yesterday. He's been finding the line well over these trips, but I thought it was a lovely ride from Chris Parnham, a really patient ride as well, and I felt like there was a sliding doors moment as they crossed the winning post for the first time, because Chris actually had the back of Strike Now and Lucy Fury, and at that point he elected to get in the 3 deep line, and that just meant that Chris was on the outside of Lucy. So when they needed to make their runs from the 600 or 700 metre mark, Chris was able to give Satino plenty of galloping room, and unfortunately Lucy was forced to go towards the inside, and when Lucy and Strike Now had to carry the 59 kilos and didn't quite have the same momentum as Satino, I felt that was the winning move from Chris Parnham really early on in that race. But Satino, he's always looked like a horse that would win in Saturday company in this grade over this trip, and it was nice to see him, I guess, conclude what has been a really fruitful campaign for him and his owners with a win there yesterday.
Tallangatta was really well backed late. I think it was $10 into $5.50 in the closing minutes. And generally when there's that sort of money for a horse late, they perform well. But I don't know whether it's just a thought that I have. But when Chris Willis's horses are well backed, they rarely perform poorly. They always go really, really close, especially these front running types. So you knew Tallangatta was on yesterday, and I made him my best each way of the program the start before, and was disappointed, but I was sort of kicking myself yesterday after that, because I probably didn't give him the respect he deserved, because he was coming off that setback when he was scratched with the hoof abscess the start prior, and it was probably fair enough that he put in a little bit of a dodgy one last start, but back to his best yesterday. Was only gunned down in the final stride. Recall's turned things around the last couple of starts. He's been finishing off really well. I liked the ride of Joey there yesterday. Really got him going, and was quite aggressive and put him into the race, and he was beaten less than a length. Strike Now, you've touched on, nearly pulled off a ripper ride, almost Fat Roy Slim style, ducking back to the fence and finishing off well, but probably the weight and the momentum, as you mentioned there, brought him undone. Truly Reliable was solid, but the horse that I was impressed with was Bam Bam Boy. Was Bidley, Bidley disappointing at Bunbury, I thought, second up after a really promising first up run over 1,650 metres off about 11 months between runs. 3 wide, no cover of the trip yesterday, and was still there on the line, was beaten 2.5 lengths. Pretty solid effort. Sue Olive appears to have turned him around in the space of a couple of weeks, but these staying races have been quite competitive. We know that Fat Roy Slim's going to the Southwest, was it the Winter? What's it called now?
Southwest Winter Cup.
Winter Cup.
Because we're in winter, not autumn.
Yeah. next Sunday. And if Santino's going to the paddock, then you'd think horses like Tallangatta, Recalled, Strike Now, they should all be pretty competitive in these races moving forward. I
agree. I think Strike Now is the one, as you touched upon in the preview yesterday morning, Michael. The fact that this race was re-handicapped wasn't to Strike Now's advantage at all. I still feel like he was a really good run yesterday, with top weight giving some of his key rivals some massive weight swings. In a regular 66 plus or maybe even a 72 plus next start, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Strike Now back in the winner's circle.
Greg L has sent one in. Morning, men. Peachable ride by Chris Parnham on Satino yesterday was a pleasure to watch live. Savage One didn't live up to its name yesterday, was very keen on it, but it never came on. Disappointed indeed. Ruse nearly got up last night, Marty. Maybe the upset of the round will be today against your boys. I have everything crossed. That is Greg L, a great mate of ours here on Tab Radio.
Absolutely.
You tipped North, didn't you, Mart?
I did tip North. Nearly pulled one off there, but now I'm stuffed. Too far back. Let's concentrate on the racing. Race number 5 and Unite Resourcing Handicap over the mile again. We spoke to Michael Grantham. This was a terrific win. Sentimental Hero.
Left to go. Savage One straightened in front. Fiore came away from its heels though. Falcon Trader cruised up to it. Speed Dream got the inside run. Battling away West River Miracle. Candlelight Supper. Sentimental Hero. Inside the 175. Falcon Trader drew a length clear. Sentimental Hero coming quickly though. Here's Sentimental Hero. Sentimental Hero sprints up, takes Falcon Trader, draws away. Sentimental Hero. Chris Parnham goes race to race, beat Falcon Trader. Classic Rogue from last third.
Like this ride by Chris too. Good patient ride, just waited and then let Sentimental Hero descend down the middle of the track. What did you think, Locke?
Absolutely. The horse actually settled handier than I realised when I go back and watch the replay on a couple more occasions, and he travelled really, really keenly. So I think moving forward, he can actually settle in the first 4 or 5, especially over this mile type of journey. But as you touched upon with your interview with Michael Grantham, he just seems to have such a big, long stride, and Chris just was desperate to get him out into clear air as soon as he could. And once he got out to the middle of the track, I thought he found the line really, really nicely, and perhaps wasn't all that well suited, because prior to the top of the straight, he just lost his position and was shuffled back. But once he got him out into clear air, as I said, I thought he found the line really nicely. And when you go back and look at the winning margin, I think it was a deceivingly dominant performance. He's won by 2.5 lengths.
Yes.
That was a really nice performance, albeit he beat some horses that have been around this grade for a long time. I know Falcon Trader was a last start winner, but the likes of Classic Rogue and Atlantis Beach, even a West River Miracle, they haven't won in a long period of time. But Sentimental Hero, with the way he won yesterday and at his handicap rating of 77 prior to yesterday, there's not many horses going around that could beat a horse like him, I don't think. Perhaps a 3-year-old that we saw out of the Belmont Guineas, but plenty of them either go to an Aquanita or a Belmont Oaks. I think, at the ripe old age of 6, he may have really finally come into his own, because that was a very nice win.
He's lightly raced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. He's only had the 18 starts. He's a rising 7-year-old. This is probably the one performance yesterday that I didn't really see coming, because I thought the first up run over 1,200 metres was only fair, and he was a first up winner over 1,200 metres his previous prep, albeit that was back in September of last year. So I wasn't sure whether it was just because it was too short for him, considering he was a fresh winner over the same distance last prep. But perhaps now that he's that season older, he just needed the extra ground, because he stepped up 400 metres, soft track, and geez, he was really dominant there. He won with more in hand. I think Falcon Trader's a nice horse to keep following, though. He puts himself on speed. He's always in the first 4, and he's a winner. He's won 6 of his 15 or 16 starts, and I think it was a bit of an ugly race in front of him as well. He was following Savage One, who didn't take him anywhere near into the straight as much as what he would have been, or Lucy would have been expecting. He was under pressure a long way out. Classic Rogue is just going absolutely enormous at the moment. He's doing it, he's showing tactical versatility. He's on speed. Then the last couple of starts he's gone back and he's still found the line, but he's probably just caught between grades. He's hasn't won in over 12 months, so he would be eligible for a Zero Metro win, but he's a 75 rater, so he's too high. It's too highly rated for it, so he's in a bit of a tricky spot, but he's going really well. And Atlanta's Beaches 2 runs back have been super as well. I think there's a win in him this preparation. Disappointment was Savage One. That was the horse I tipped. I thought he'd get an easy lead, be able to dictate terms and could at least finish in the money, but he was gone a long way out, and I do think the best is behind Savage One. He got things pretty soft. His start prior over 1,400, having to do a bit of work yesterday over a mile, really brought him undone.
And Birdie Eagle ran last, beaten 16.5 lengths, but trainer Neville Parnham was of the opinion that the gelding may have got its tongue back during the running, and he may experiment with a gear change, so I suspect that would be a tongue tie going on. Wouldn't surprise me to see Birdie Eagle really bounce back next start, because there were a couple judges that were keen on his chances.
Shot away from them. It's Pooley in full flight, balancing for the run home. It led by 1.5 to 2. Triple J, a similar margin. Multinational and Duchess of Gossip, and further back behind those. Then at the head of the others came Top of the Pops at the 175. Pooley joined by Triple J, sprinting to the lead. Triple J kicks clear. Duchess of Gossip. Yongalas further back runs on. It's Triple J though that's got the money. Triple J home too good for them. Yongalas second, tight for third, flying late to Darty ahead of Duchess of Gossip. In behind them then came Top of...
Yeah, there it is. Triple J winning the Bisley Workwear Handicap over the 1,200 metres for Brad Parnham and the Pierce boys.
Lovely ride this, and congratulations to the Pierce boys. That was their 400th winner as a partnership, so that was great to see for
Good on them.
Dan, Ben and the whole Pierce clan. There's a big bunch of them that all do a great job, and yeah, they're just good people to deal with, I think. But Triple J, he's always had a big rap on him, and I just love the ride of Brad Parnham in the early stages. It was interesting to interview Dan post-race, and he put his hand up and said, look, I actually don't know where you're going to be in running, so he left it up to Brad, and Brad just made the split decision to roll forward once he began reasonably well, settled outside a horse like Pooley, and we've always known Triple J as not only a horse that they've had a big opinion of, but he's such a big, imposing type as well, and just kept in clear air in a nice rhythm outside the leader. I think we saw the real Triple J yesterday, and I think we've learned that he doesn't have to get so far back in his races, because we need to remember that early on in his career, he was winning plenty of races right on top of the speed. So it was great to see him in that familiar role from earlier on in his career, just out of trouble, and that's where we saw the best of him yesterday, Michael.
What about at the 200?
At the 200 metre. What happened? You go on, man. The floor's yours.
Bradley just pulled the whip through into the left and said, get home, boy.
Whooshka.
The crowd went up. Front bar.
I know you went up as well.
You're dead right about Brad's right, though, through the early stages. You can actually see him look to his left because the horse jumped better than what he was expecting. He said pre-race, and Pooley always looked the likely leader, but Multinational was in between them, and Brad would know Multinational pretty well, and he could have had the option just to see what Multinational did, but he was really aggressive and made sure he got in front of Multinational to avoid being caught wide. And beautiful ride, and they appeared to roll along at a pretty genuine clip as well, and he still travelled really strongly. He just travels boldly, the horse, and he was able to show his best. He's been in the money, I think, at most of his starts now, and he's won a couple $100,000. I think he'll make it a stakes level. He's just been a bit of a slow burn, big, heavy horse who will probably improve as a 5-year-old next season. Younger Lass was another really good run, fresh winner over 1,000 metres. I was really interested with her, probably as interested with any other runner on the card yesterday to see how she went after such a good win over 1,000 metres, considering she is a miler, and whether second up the edge would be taken off her. But she's a definite follow. She's absolutely flying. She's come back in great order. I think Tudardi's a follow as well. He was dictated to from the barrier and had to go back to last, but he hit the line brilliantly. Duchies of Gossip had to do a little bit of work early, but ended up lobbing one out, one back, and this is the horse that I tipped yesterday, and I thought she had her chance and was probably only fair in the end. Outside of that, no luck for Billy Ray, 3 wide, no cover. Cash Away, after that first up win, hasn't fired a shot. His last 2, unfortunately. And Multinational was an even effort when finishing midfield, but I think you can be following Younger Lass, Tudardi, and the winner, of course, Triple J, out of this race.
Yep, I'm really keen to follow Tudardi. I think with the benefit of hindsight, they may have been regretting even starting him yesterday, because that was just such a huge performance from what was always going to map an awkward race for him. He just got so far out of his ground, but his final 200, he certainly ticked the 1,200 metre box moving forward. He's perhaps my biggest follow out of the meeting, just knowing that in that 1,000 metre race first up this preparation, he settled relatively handy to the speed. So with the benefit of a better barrier over 1,200 metres, I think he can well and truly settle 4th, 5th, 6th in running, and he'll be awfully hard to beat next up.
Spoke to Grant on Tuesday's drive, and he said Younger Lass will be set for maybe a shot at a race like a Railway Stakes.
Yeah, really?
And looking at that run there, and you could, if you go back and listen to that interview, he basically said she's probably looking for 1,400 already.
Yep. And she's in that ballpark where she's an 85 rotor. She'll go to 86 after yesterday's second placing. She's in that ballpark of a horse like an Ollie's Choice, where another win gets her to low 90s, and then all of a sudden you're starting to think of an Asian Bow. Probably a Peters trying to get in off the back up, and then from there you're at 53 kilos of a Railway, and it's our biggest race, so you have to try.
That is for sure. Bunbury and Pinjarra, we've seen ingratiating parade down there. Have you seen the stallion?
Yes, we saw him.
Big forearms.
We saw him last week at Bunbury, and I saw him earlier this week at Pinjarra.
Good looker?
On Thursday. Great looker.
Yeah, that's the reports.
Yeah, he's in a really nice sort.
Stable name, Mart.
Stable name, Popeye. Those big forearms. But only reason brought up is that obviously Neville Duncan and Oakland Park owning Triple J in that race. And just got a text there saying, ask the boys about their thoughts on ingratiating from the stallion parades.
Yep.
Yeah, we sort of at Bunbury, and he paraded there. He looks a really nice type and really well bred too, or really well performed, I should say. Yep. Probably one of the better performing stallions we've had here.
No doubt about that. Race number 7, the WA Spirit of Racing Awards. Nominations are now open over the 1,400 metres.
Then Valderina as they set sail for home. Secret Attraction at the head of the others with Central Force, the rail feuding. Into the straight though, she's made all the running. Hibiscus Lady and took them by the 300. Shown the Persuader, led Russian Sniper. Now Dr. J being tested. Hibiscus Lady, Russian Sniper, and here comes Californication. Right down the extreme outside with a barnstorming run. Californication descended upon them. Dr. J tries to go with it, but Californication, a brilliant winner from Dr. J or Russian Sniper.
Tell us about this for Lukey Campbell, Californication, Lockie.
Well-deserved win for Californication. He's always shown Saturday-level metro ability. He's been awfully unlucky his last 2 starts. Obviously, nothing went right for him in that Sky Provincial final, and even last start, he was off the track. Not much luck throughout, but yesterday had an awkward alley to overcome, but Luke Campbell, I really liked the ride early. He just allowed someone else to be 4 deep. He was on the back of Pat Carberry and the Bob Peters horse, who was 4 deep, no cover throughout. But from there, he was just out of trouble. We've seen him be in trouble throughout his career, but with plenty of galloping room, Luke just allowed him to balance up, and then he found the line really, really nicely. If you actually just watch him in isolation, he looked like the winner a long way out. So it was nice to see him win there yesterday. Interestingly, he may now be set for a Hannans, so he may go back to Kalgoorlie, have a short break and be set for a Hannans, and he's still...
Good call, I think.
He's still relatively lowly rated for a Hannans, so provided he gains a start, it looks like a nice race for him.
There's always a lot of lowly rated horses.
Yeah, it's always got a long tail to it, and he'll be part of that long tail in terms of a handicapping perspective, albeit he probably looks like the best local chance at this early stage.
Yeah, 100%. Nice horse. Yesterday I left him out. I thought he would be the 3 wide, no cover horse, and he had no luck the previous start from that position, but beautiful ride. He was actually 4 wide, but with cover, as you said there, behind Paddy Carberry, and really well weighted and patient ride by Luke there, and the money for him was really strong. Marty touched with the big bets at the top of the program. I think most of them hit yesterday with some of those moves. But in saying that, probably the best backed runner was Dr. J, who ran second in this race. Was it $10 he opened up Touch Thursday, and he started the $2.80 favourite. It was an avalanche of money, and
Meerkat.
And he had every chance. I thought it was still a really nice run, a beautiful type of a horse. He's really, really impressive to look at visually. I think he'll improve into his 4-year-old year, and he's a horse to follow. Russian Sniper was pretty tough on speed, stepping up to 1,400 metres for the first time. I'll be interested to see whether he backs up into the West Speed Platinum Final over $400,000 over 14 next Saturday. The horse I want to touch on, though, was Ablo. Geez, I think he should have won. He was awfully unlucky. He had nowhere to go. Just backsides, following backsides the entire straight, had no room whatsoever. And when he got an inch of daylight at about the 100-metre mark, he just really flew. And you watched them after the post, especially in the stewards' visions, a really telling story. It's if you just want to really make yourself sick. And he was in front after the post, so I think Ablo's a big follow, but... Look, he is that sort of horse. He shows no gate speed wherever he races, and it doesn't matter where he draws, he's going to be at the back. So you do need an each-way price about him, but I think the horse is flying.
Yeah, I agree. I want to make him a horse to follow, but I can't commit to it just because of his racing pattern. You touched upon Dr. J. I think this horse is an out-and-out blinker horse. I think with a set of shades, he will jump out of the ground. You can see...
Got a bit lost, didn't he?
He just didn't travel at any stage there yesterday. Steve Parnham was at him from a long way out, and I just feel with the addition of some blinkers next start, it wouldn't surprise me to see this horse improve absolute lengths.
A couple of questions for you. Central Force, I thought, was a nice run behind them.
An improved run.
Yeah.
He hasn't...
100-1.
Yeah, he hasn't done something like that in a long period of time. And
be looking for ground.
Yeah, exactly. He was almost on a Guineas path as a 3-year-old early on in his career, so he was a big improver yesterday.
And just the other one with Californication's racing pattern. Can it take a forward position? Because if you go to win a Hannans, a lot of times you want to be up in that first part of the field.
Yeah, he could hold the first 5 or something. I think that's that's generally good enough.
I'm a little bit more sceptical as to whether he could settle first 5 in a Hannans.
Okay.
The other horse I wanted to touch on was Feuding. Ablo was 3 back the fence, no luck. Feuding had even less luck was when Ablo got the split. Feuding couldn't get out, and he was held up the entire, and he went around a big price there yesterday and was sharply improved, second up, so just a little one to keep an eye on moving forward.
Okay, Afghanistan are none for 29 of 5. Gurbaz is 17 and Zadran is 7. We go to race number 8 on the card. This was the main event of the day. The Amelia Park Belmont Guineas over the 1,600 metres.
Here as they turn for home, balancing up 300 to go. Cool Memory by 2. Second is Dreamtime. Gene Love and War now letting go, and here comes Brave Spirit with a run, rushing to the bar as well, and Sapphire Street, Ton of Grunt. I Dreamed a Dream getting up on the inside with the Boss Lady. Cool Memory joined by Love and War. Love and War hits the front though, extends and pulls away. It's Love and War. Love and War, the filly. One from Petrushka, who's come from the clouds, driving through in the middle. I thought that she'd run second from Cool Memory close up, and Brave Spirit, Sapphire.
Good filly, this Love and War. She certainly is. Petrushka, a nice run into second. Cool Memory boxes on for third. Brave Spirit, I thought, had its chance in fourth, and Sapphire Street in fifth.
As we've touched upon, great day for Michael Grantham. This was the third leg of a treble, but Pat Carberry, hats off to him. I thought this was a great ride. You could see there was just a concerted effort from the early stages of the race to stay one off, and as he touched upon in his post-race interview with you, Michael, that she's just a big, rangy type of filly. So he was just conscious of giving her plenty of galloping room throughout, and he just rode her like the best horse in the race. There were horses back in the field that found the line really well, but I just love the fact that she's shown over 1,200 metres that she can settle handy enough. She can do that, obviously, over a mile yesterday. So she's versatile. She has tactical speed, but then has a turn of foot at the end of her races. That is just the recipe for a lovely filly that's going to continue to win plenty of races at this level.
100%, really nice type of a horse, and she's been strong at the back end of all of her races. And she's not progressing to the Oaks, though, is she?
Yeah,
she is now. Okay, yeah. Well, you'd think she'd be going around near on favourite, but in saying that, Petruka was a terrific run out of maiden grade and just ate up the ground late by more than ready. You'd think that the Belmont Oaks would be a perfect race for her. One of the more interesting things coming out of this race, I thought, was that the first and second horse didn't come through the raconteur. They both took alternate paths. Love and War was only coming out of a graduation, and Petruka, who was the run of the race,
and it was a hard run raconteur, wasn't it?
Absolutely. So it just makes you wonder whether that did take a fair bit out of those horses, considering how quick they went early in the raconteur. But to the leader's credit from that race, cool memory. Geez, how tough. So tough. He drew 16 of 16, worked his way to the top, and was still there at the business end, beaten a length and a half into third. I thought it was a terrific effort.
Would he go to an Aquanita? Just bowling along out in front.
I was about to say, if he did, he'd be leading.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Brave Spirit was a funny run. He was under the bat a long way out, and it looked in running as though it was an end of prep run, but then he came again late. Mm-hmm. It was. I'd be surprised if they went to the 2000, but it was almost the run that suggested maybe he would ever go because the way he found the line, but perhaps he's just come to the end of his preparation. Sapphire Street loomed like the winner down the middle part of the track, and then she just really peaked. You could see about the 100-metre mark her run just came to an abrupt end, and I just don't think she ran out a mile, or at least having drawn where she did and having to come from a long way back, she wasn't able to run out a strong mile from that position. And the boss lady was nearly the ride of the meeting by Chris Parnham. The way he cut the corner, saved ground and hit the line okay, but just not a miler, I don't think. I think that proved that yesterday. Even though she drew 15, she had a suck run, got the inside runs and had every chance, really. So I think coming back for a sort of 12 to 1400 metre races would be right up her alley in the spring.
Absolutely. I'm really keen to follow Petrushka heading towards a Belmont Oaks in a couple of weeks' time. I think
beat Love and War.
Yep, I reckon she will. In terms of the boys heading towards an Aquanita, there weren't many horses really putting their hand up, I thought, that really flashed home late. I know We Rate You, beaten 4 lengths. His last 100 was decent, but I think the Aquanita will be an open race, and the Belmont Oaks will certainly be dominated from a market point of view by Love and War and Petrushka, and I'll settle with the latter.
Okay, final event of the day out of Belmont Park yesterday was the Schweppes Handicap over 1,300 metres.
In the middle, Fluoro Neuro, and over on the outside behind them, Pray Again is tracked up onto the back of War Gem. Near the rail, under the gun, Zero Demerits, followed further back by D'Amber, and then Noteworthy commencing a run, 250 to go. Benji's Mistrakova have got to He's Gold, letting loose Pray Again though, and now D'Amber starts to put the big ones in as well. Pray Again hits the front, D'Amber getting through, Fluoro Neuro surging through on the rail, strikes the lead, and Fluoro Neuro much better second up, pulled away. Fluoro Neuro won the last from D'Amber, and Pray Again, then Noteworthy.
Oh, Noteworthy back in fourth, but the win of Fluoro Neuro. Talk about good rides, good ride here from CJP.
Absolutely. I think he's just going to be one of those horses that you almost have to just ride for luck. You're going to have some sick beats along the way, because whenever you seem to produce him with a good ride, he doesn't seem to finish off as well, but ridden nice and quietly yesterday, just waiting and waiting and waiting for that gap to appear. Found the line really well. Well done to Clint Johnson-Porter, and it's been good to see Clint back in some form as well. He had a treble on Wednesday afternoon to get him back into the swing of things after a little bit of a quiet period, but Fluoro Neuro, he's just going to continue to be around the place in this type of grade, and interestingly, it sounds like they'd like to stretch him out to a mile now as well.
The way he finishes off these races, you'd think that a mile should be okay for him, but he's a really tricky horse to ride by the looks. He's Graham made a good point after the race that you just need to kid to him almost, and I think he must just have to make him feel like he's going a bit better than what he is, and when he's held up and he's travelling strongly, that's when he produces his best. D'Amber was a good run, trolled up well. She's a winner, and she finished off really well first up, so I think she's in for a good campaign. And Pray Again was a really good run for over 1,300 metres. I think it only placed once from 6 starts first up previously, and all form is over 14, 16 plus, so I thought off the back of what was a really nice trial. I'm not going to make him a follow because he is a tricky horse to catch, but I think he's in for a good campaign. But Noteworthy, I think you can continue to follow her, but with a bit more sting out of the ground. Hopefully, if she can hit a sort of soft 7 type of track, I think she'll be really hard to beat.
Up to a mile.
Yep.
Calm Spirit.
Yep, up to a mile, softer track, and I think she can be hard to beat wherever she goes next.
I agree. Interesting to note with Pray Again, he's had 3 career wins, and all 3 have been at Belmont Park. Yep. So I just suspect this has been a direct plan from Neville to get him back in this
Bestie's trial
period
as well.
And yes, I think he'll be winning this campaign.
On Racing Rewind, it is time for the boys to look back and determine who are the black bookers, the ones to be on next start, the horses to follow.
4 for me. I've pulled my finger out. Skullbone and Pig.
Yes.
We all like that one.
Yep.
2 Darty, loved his effort. Dr. J, I think he needs some headgear. And Petrushka wins the Belmont Oaks.
Oh, I like Younger Lass. Keep following her this preparation. September Born is a really nice 2-year-old.
Just on that, she might go for a break, I think.
Who's that?
Younger Lass.
Ah, okay. Oh, and so might September Born, so you can scratch both of those probably.
Well done, mate.
I think Ablo and Noteworthy both have wins in them this prep.
Okay, counting down to 9 o'clock. I'm a Noteworthy fan. I'm a Love and War fan to win the Belmont Oaks, so we'll go head-to-head lock and meet here in a couple of weeks. 10.5 degrees at the time. Thanks to Soph, Leah Ernest to take us through the morning into the afternoon.